What's happening? If you're from SKIzzle, this is 2 on Tuner here to bring you some flat earth facts, some ways you can prove it to yourself. Okay, so a lot of people remember art class, and I'm almost positive you can, even if you're an art major, they don't ever teach you how to draw curvature of earth on any scale. And they don't teach you a relationship, for that matter. It's not taught. Anytime you're trying to do a perspective drawing where there's going to be objects that need to be to scale, in order to achieve scale, you use straight lines, which means flat. If you had to do curvature, there would be some kind of bend to that line, and that's never the case. In perspective drawing, you use a straight edge. That should tell you that the relationship is flat. If you're using a straight edge, there would have to be a curve. I know. Okay, so the curve is you would never be able to have it. Well, who's to say how big my drawing is depicting, right? They don't. There's not a curved... They don't teach it. There's no straight edge that will give you curvature of the earth. They don't have it. And then on top of that, video and photography, it never shows up. You don't see curvature towards the edge of the photograph or the video. It never pops up. Buildings and poles are always pointing straight up, which just corroborates with art class and how it's perspective drawing, straight lines. If everything's straight, then there's your answer. But on top of all of that, the photography and the video, the distance that you can see is way too far. You can see way too far. Look up the curvature of the earth, how soon you should start seeing things dropping off, and then how much drop you should get once drop occurs, right? If you can figure all of those numbers out, I want to promise you could double it. So you could factor in curvature from behind you, just in case you want to prove this to yourself even more. Let's just say it's 2 times. Double the distance. Just for the benefit of, let's not factor double curve, so it's going to curve 2 times. Let's just say that the curve happens twice as far as what is visible or perceived, right? They're saying it happens at this point. Let's just say they're wrong, or visuals, it comes off twice as long. Just factor in double the length. You can still see buildings and boats. Somebody can get a lens of a camera. If you have access to a telescope, you could, point that telescope parallel with the level Earth. They say water proves it too, with a leveler, a bubble and a leveler. How it's just straight and there's a bubble. Water lays flat. That's how the bubble even works. It's just this weird thing, but anyways, somebody can whip out a decent long lens for a good camera, and then whatever you think is falling past the curve, and you can do this with the sun too. Whatever camera you're using, go find somebody with a longer lens. Take your camera and zoom all the way in, bust out the longer lens. That longer lens will pull that object. It'll just bring it straight back up. You're like, oh, it curved off. The long lens will you'll be looking right at the very bottom, the same exact bottom of the ship. There's not it's not like a building, you're gonna start to lose visibility of the first floor. You know, you would think the first floor would squish, or it would go on the other side of the curve, and you'd only be able to see, out of a 10-story building, the top 5 stories. You know what I mean? You would think that with the curve, it would start to either, you know, like you'd either not be able to see the top floor or not be able to see the bottom floor. I don't know, like, because there, how can you even see the building? It's supposed to be curving off, and yet someone can pull the whole every floor of the building. You'll be able to look at every floor. You'll be able to look at the bottom of the ship, the top of the ship. It's not like you're looking at, you know, I mean, yeah, it doesn't abruptly curve off, but you would think that if you're seeing curve from a distance, that you would start to see some distortion of the objects that you believe are at the horizon. I really want to say that the objects would distort. And because there's no distortion, and somebody can just pull up a long lens, or they can just get a telescope out and bam, they can count how many stories are on the building or the ship, you know, whatever. They could, essentially, I'm saying they could measure, and it would be scale or the same, and it wouldn't be a curvature relationship. It would be a distance only. Those would be the only numbers involved. I'm telling you can just prove this to yourself. Just factor in, like, if it's like 3 miles, you're supposed to have drop, right? Let's just say 6 miles, you're supposed to see drop. The idea is that there's like bodies of water or land masses that are longer than 3 or 6 miles where curvature is supposed to occur. You know, so like people have photos of objects hundreds of miles in the distance. And at that point, there should be a lot of curvature. And they say that the light bends around the Earth the same way gravity does, and the same way water is able to. That doesn't make any sense. That doesn't make any sense.